biggest myth about work-life balance?
There isn't one, especially post-pandemic. It's a blend, and it's not about time. It's about present. It's really about presence. I have so many times people are like, "What? I'm home." And it's like, "Yeah, you're home, but you're scrolling, waiting to be told what to do." Like, that's not the same as being present and noticing, like, "Oh, there's a need over here. I can go meet without being asked."
Welcome to the Your Seat at the Table podcast with your hosts, Idea Monkey Mike Maddock and ringleader John Tobin. We're two founders, a serial entrepreneur and $1 billion operator, who talk to leaders about how, when, and why they made their most pivotal decisions in life. Join us as we share wisdom, mistakes, and a few laughs learning from the brightest minds in business today.
Okay, lucky us, we have Kelly Clements with us today. Kelly Clements is one of the best experts I know about business leaders and how to win at work and win at home. In fact, your book is titled Grow Your Business Without Growing Apart, subtitled How to Win at Home. Kelly is a hot ticket on the EO and YPO speaking circuit. Forums are bringing her in, for example, to talk about, making sure that they're not neglecting their partner at home while they're working on their other marriage, the business. So, Kelly, tell us how you tell us, I'm sure it's going to be a little rough, but how did you acquire this wisdom about winning at
Yeah.
home and at work?
Yeah, it was definitely hard-fought wisdom. I've said many times that my mess is my message, and it really started way back in 2004, observing the patterns in my clients. At the time, I worked for Dan Sullivan at Strategic Coach, and so I was around successful, established entrepreneurs all day, every day. And I noticed back then that my clients that had a really great marriage or relationship were always hitting different levels of holistic success versus their counterparts that tended to struggle more. And so I always observed the connection of the marriage being the multiplier. And I would go home every day after work and I would tell my brand new husband at the time about all of the things that my clients were doing, all of the, the time freedom they had and the financial freedom they could create and all of these ways that I was really getting bit by the entrepreneurial bug. And he humored me for many years until one day he looked at me and said, "Kelly, why can't this just be enough for you? Why do you always need more?" And that would be the beginning of where I realized that we were going to very different places in our lives. And it got to the point where the only thing we had in common was our address and our two little boys. So ultimately, that marriage ended in divorce. And I learned so much from my role in that, especially as a woman being the one who was, um, started telling stories and then turned into comparison that then turned into criticism and how detrimental that is when a woman is speaking like that to her partner. So I learned a lot about my role in that.
And you weren't trying, I'm sure knowing you that you weren't trying to go, why can't you be like this? That's just the way it was received. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I always thought that it was an invitation, but we were young. I'm very naive. And so I'd always felt like an invitation and I could see the potential. I wasn't ready to just accept that it was just
Yeah.
very, very
Not his
different
calling.
mindsets.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in all fairness, probably before our marriage, I was way more on that side of the spectrum with him. It wasn't until I was exposed to this world and being in the world with so much creativity and innovation that really lit me up. I always talk about like I didn't find my purpose found me. Like when I remember when I was in that interview for Strategic Coach, it felt like I found my mothership because I just like for the first time in my life came into this world of entrepreneurial thinkers that fully made sense to me. I felt like I
Yeah.
was speaking a language I'd never heard before, but it made so much sense.
And for our listeners that might not know Dan Sullivan or Strategic Coach, I have a number of Flourish Advisory Board members and many, many good friends who have gone through the strategic coach program. And it really is, it's a coaching program for people that are running businesses. And if I had to put it, I don't work for Dan, but I've asked other people what makes it really useful. And the best explanation I've gotten, and you can check me on this, Kelly, is it's a master class in how to grow the business without you having your fingers in every part of it. So for people that are looking to step away from their business and have it keep growing, Dan is a force of nature and has a great program. So you walked into a room every day and entrepreneurs who were fast growth entrepreneurs who are deeply curious, who are trying to come up with the next thing, you know, I'm sure gave you a whole bunch of mojo that you walked home with. Like, oh my gosh.
Totally. And it
Yeah,
made sense to me because I had the context for it, and
right.
my partner who was in corporate America was very much like, well, like that's just the real
Yeah.
world doesn't work like that.
Speaking Latin. Yeah.
Totally. Um, and so that was really the first experience that I had of being on a very high growth track and how important it was to grow together. Um, and I'm sure there's ways that he was growing that I just couldn't see or appreciate it because it wasn't in the strike zone of what I was so passionate about at the time.
There is a lesson here that applies to your partner in business as well, if I may, because I was the partner that would go to a gathering of Titans every year or some business conference. And being the idea monkey that I was, I'd come back all frothed up about this
Mhm.
next big idea. And my partner started to dread my, re-entry into the atmosphere because I would come with all these great things that we had to do. And a very similar thing happened. They're like, hey, man, we're here doing our job and you keep coming with these ideas. Why aren't we good enough? So it's kind of similar, like anyway, a quick digression. Keep going,
Yep.
Kelly,
Yep. Yeah, that could be a whole other episode on the business relationship that you just
for sure.
mentioned. But so I would tell you that the pendulum for me swung from one extreme in my first marriage to the other extreme in my second relationship. When, in my infinite wisdom, I thought this would be it would be so much more successful and easy if I was with somebody who was as driven and passionate as me. Famous last words. So in that relationship, when you have two driven, passionate entrepreneurs, someone has to yield. And in that case, it was me. And so I went from hyper masculine in my marriage to hyper feminine in that second partnership when I just started yielding and acquiescing everything because I felt like our entire world was orbiting around him and his business. And in that gravitational pull, I lost myself. I lost, my passion, my way. And so the punchline there of how that relationship ultimately ended was, Kelly, what happened? You used to be like so vivacious and passionate, and now you're exhausted and bitter and pissed off all the time. And I was because I had lost myself. And so I had a lot of resentment. And so I say all that to say that I deeply relate to both people in entrepreneurial partnerships. A lot of times when I get on the phone with spouses, they'll start crying almost immediately because it's like, finally, somebody understands this journey, because from the outside it looks amazing, but there's a lot of dynamics behind the scenes that are very, very challenging that just don't get talked about. And same for the business owner, that somebody finally can decode what's happening at home, because a lot of times they're dumbfounded. It's like, I don't get it. I'm creating a really great life. What is there to be so like have so much upset about? And so to be able to decode that language without anybody feeling like they're getting personally attacked is a value that I bring to my clients, to understand where they have a lot of strengths that are working for them, but also against them.
Okay, so let's start right there. So when a CEO, uh, male or female, says out loud, I'm doing this for my family.
Hmm.
I'm busting my butt for my family. I don't get it. Is there a part where the story starts to break down? Like, uh, how would you respond to that? Because I'm sure you've heard it 1,000 times. I'm doing
Yes.
this for my family.
Yes. The point where it breaks down is where you get to the promised land. You know, you've got the house, you've got the cars, you've ticked all the boxes that you were working for. And so in the early years, it's like, the story is, babe, I'm doing this for us. We're going to get to this point, and then I can take my foot off the gas. And so the general promise is, give me 3 to 5 years. And most spouses can be like, you know what, it's going to be hard, but I got it. And then we hit the 3 to 5 year mark, and now we need the second home and other businesses and other verticals. And the complexity just keeps going. And the cost is now not worth it, because now the cost is the relationship cost, the connectivity. The spouse at home feels like they're doing life completely alone, or they feel like an employee of their partner. And so the breakdown comes when, no, this is no longer about us. We've gotten to the point that always said we wanted to be at. We've gotten there and then some, and you're still grinding. You're still stressed out. You're still gone all the time. You're still not present. And so at that point, it becomes about you. Like, now it's about you and your ego and what else you're trying to prove in the world or overcompensate for. Do the real work. And that's what
Does
I
it,
go
yeah,
ahead.
does it matter if they're working together? Like you said, if they feel like an employee of their partner. I believe Dan Sullivan, for example, his wife works with him. Is there a secret to making that work?
So the nuances in all kinds of relationships do create different dynamics. The dynamics when couples are working together tends to be, we don't know who we are outside of the business. Like, we talk about work all the time.
Yeah.
We don't really know who we are outside of the business. And there's other challenges that can happen there too, different power struggles or communication gaps. But the big one relationally for couples who work together is, how do we draw a line or create some kind of identity or sense of connection outside of the business?
Okay. Is there a lie that high performers tell themselves um,
Yeah.
about balance that actually makes things worse? Is it?
Um, I think the lie, number one, is, as we've covered, is, I'm doing this for you.
eh,
Um, the other lie is, what could you possibly be upset about? I think the lie that entrepreneurs will tell themselves, particularly male entrepreneurs who are doing this for a wife and kids at home, is, I'm gonna earn all of their problems away. And so the expectation is, I'm going to come home and they're only ever going to be happy and delighted to see me. I'm going to earn all their problems away. And so if they have a bad day, it's somehow a personal reflection of my personal failures, which then causes all kinds of disconnects, because then they shut down. You're not grateful. And so there's a whole snarl in there. So I think the biggest lie is that thinking that you can out earn your family's problems or even moods.
yeah.
And so that's a big conversation that I have as well with high earners.
Is there? You mentioned you were kind enough to come and speak to as a guru, outside guru at Flourish Advisory Boards, and the group actually loved you, so absolutely loved you, I should say. So thank you. You talked about fixing, like as if you're running a P&L, you are a fixer. Like, you go to work every day and you're finding problems to fix. Why does that not work at home? Ask Captain Obvious.
Um, so men and women they respond differently to stress. And a lot of times when men get stressed out, they tend to shut down, go into what I call their cave, just need to figure it out. To your point, they're good at figuring it out. And they tend to do that alone and in their vacuum. And when women get stressed out, we want to connect. We want to connect emotionally. We want to talk about it. And so when we're talking to our partners about a problem, there's very, very, very rarely a request in there or an expectation that their partner fixes it. What we're really looking for, and this is the buzzword, if you've ever heard your spouse saying they want emotional safety, what women are really looking for in this moment is not to, like, find the problem or solve the challenge. It's, gosh, that must be really hard for you, or I can't believe she did that to you. What was she thinking? Like, we're looking for an engaging conversation around it, just in some way to feel validated. And that's how we feel connected, is it's like we have this shared experience that we're laughing about now. And so we open up and we start to share a problem. And then when we're met with, well, just do this or just fix it or I'm going to go kick his butt or whatever the challenge or the solution at the time is. It's like, that's,
I am so
you
guilty
missed
of
it.
this, Kelly. I, I,
That's,
I like, um, I years ago, David Emerald, God rest his soul, who wrote The Empowerment Dynamic, The Power of Ted, he taught about Stephen Cartman's drama triangle, basically.
uh-huh.
And I remember, there's the victim and the rescuer and the persecutor. And I'm like, I am not a rescuer. I would never rescue people. And then I realized I rescued with ideas. Well, what about this? 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 So that's how I was creating drama. And my wife recently came up with a phrase that I just love. She's like, I'm going to tell you something. And there's nothing to fix here.
Hmm.
There's nothing to fix.
Yep.
I just want to tell you about something because I can't help it. I'm like, oh, well, and I'm just so desperately trying to, you know, put some salve on the wound, and it's actually cutting deeper when I do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of time I've spoke to another forum, it was all men, and they were like, but what do we do? Like when she's talking about something like, what do we do? And I'm like, literally just sit and listen. And you can ask questions like, what was that like for you? Or you can say like, I can't believe you had to go through that. Like you don't deserve that, but you don't have like just sit and engage. And in the beginning, it's a skill. You might have to fake it because in your mind you're screaming like the answer is so obvious, or in your mind you're like, this is not a problem. Why are we talking about this? It's numbing my brain to be listening to this mom drama that happened on the playground. But it's how she's connecting with you. It's a form of foreplay, and it's we're in that moment in the kitchen or in the car on the sofa when she's sharing this with you, where she's building her emotional safety. And when you check out, we get the message of, "He doesn't care. Business gets the best of him. I get the rest of him. If this was a business problem, he'd be all in." And so we
I
start
see
to
what you
connect
did
with
there with the
those.
foreplay thing. You're pulling on that lever. It's kind of like, see, it's foreplay. I'm sure you're familiar, and every guy's like, "What? Oh, okay, now I'm in."
Yeah, have your
What's
attention.
the? Yeah, yeah. You have the room. What is the? Well, you've seen "It's Not About the Nail" 100 times, right?
Yep.
So when you said that sounds really hard, if anybody hasn't seen it, um, please go Google "It's Not About the Nail." It's hysterical. Although it gets people angry if you show it on stage. I've been told. Um, have you seen The Manslater?
No.
Oh, that's the next best Google. Just Google The Manslater, and I promise you, Kelly, it'll wind up in some of your presentations. It's very good.
Okay.
Is there one question that a CEO should ask their partner that would change your relationship immediately, man or woman?
Okay. So this is nuanced. Um, I love how can I show up better for you? Now, greatest strength, greatest weakness.
Mhm.
When you ask somebody how you can show up better and they tell you in a man slash fixer's mind, it now becomes part of the task list.
To-do list, yeah.
Yep. And women can tell when you're doing something because of us out of obligation versus being willing to meet a need that isn't yours. And so when you say, how can I show up better for you? And they tell you, and now it's okay. And I got another item on the task list and you're doing it performatively, it could backfire.
Yeah, I can see. I can absolutely see how that would be like, well, wait a minute. You told me this is what you needed. Now I'm doing it. Now you're mad at me for it because it's performative. That's the right word.
Yep.
Um, is
There is,
there yeah, go ahead.
I want to add it because this is really important. There is some accountability on the partner or the woman to understand how linear and logical a man's brain is. And so I think where women get into trouble with this is we get into the expectations of a man being able to meet us in all of the complexity of our emotions. And if he really loved me or he really saw me or he really cared about me, he would be able to do this. And that's just not how a man's brain works. A
Thank
man's
you
brain
so much, Kelly, for saying that. You're saying the quiet things out loud. I have you've heard me make this joke, but whatever the framework is, like the 5 love languages, what's your love language? I have 3. No, no. Tell me the one love language, like, and I think what happens is that women, uh, the women in my life, I won't make it all women, the women in my life are so beautifully complex. And sometimes that they project that complexity on me and I'm just hungry. Like, what's
Mhm.
wrong? I'm hungry. You seem upset. That's because I'm hungry, but you seem really troubled. Yeah, I'm hungry. Like, sometimes it's just that.
Yes.
So I've noticed that.
Yes, and I think the more men and women can understand how beautifully different and complementary we are, so much would get solved just in that alone. And so for a woman, when she feels like her man is being quote unquote performative, it's really important to understand, like, if he cared enough to ask and put it on the list, that's a home run. Sister, take it.
Yeah.
So, if both people can come towards center and being, with being in the spirit of being willing to need a need that isn't yours for your wife, and also bonus points for a man who's willing to ask and put it on the list. That brings both towards center.
You've already kind of broached this topic, but like, are there practices around just listening that would help people who are just trying to problem solvers? Just what? Okay, like I find myself listening to fix,
Mhm.
and it's a bad habit, but particularly because of what you just said. If I'm listening to fix, I miss the plot, I miss the whole reason someone's talking. So are there practices around listening to listen instead of listening to fix?
I'm sure there are, but as a woman, it just comes so naturally to me. I don't know how to say it except for to be really transparent with your wife of this is brand new for me. This is a brand new practice. It's not because I'm dumb or incapable or just wanting to fix or overcompensate or this isn't savior complex. Men are like you guys are wired to be useful. It's it's your superpower, and so I'm developing this brand new skill. It's gonna be awkward and clunky, so could if I'm just recapping, can we just get through this awkward part together?
Yeah, it's good.
Um,
Ok, so
but it's
so
all you're just
I know
witnessing.
you have a list of, hacks, um, for men and women. I wanna get to some of them because I was taking notes a couple days ago. I'm like, "That's pretty good, that's pretty good." Um, but before we do that, just to give it do you do one-on-one or one-on-two coaching, or is most of the work that you do, with forums and groups?
So I do a lot of work with forums and groups, and then my private coaching clients are actually one-on-one. So when I work with CEOs or business owners, and they want me to work with their spouse as well. I work with my couples as individuals because I
Got it.
believe it takes two extraordinary people to create one extraordinary relationship. I want both people to have equal airtime. I want both people to talk unedited and not safe because there's a family barbecue this weekend and I don't want to rock the boat in, our couple session. And so I work with my couples as individuals. We do come together occasionally as couples to work on communication. So they're practicing their new skills in real time. But my quote unquote couples coaching happens as individuals.
Really interesting. Okay, so if you were going to have an agenda for a quarterly offsite around marriage, what kind of things would be on the agenda?
Okay. It does depend on gender. Gender cannot be dismissed or neutralized when you're doing couples work. It just cannot. So it does depend on the gender that I'm working with. If I'm working with men, the three biggies that I hit are provision, protection, and pursuit. If you're a strong financial provider, a lot of times that can backfire against you because it might leave your partner feeling like she wants more emotional provision or spiritual guidance, intellectual stimulation, social engagement. She might be looking for other areas. And if you're a strong social or financial provider, you can say, well, I make the money, you take care of everything else. Like, I'm good here.
Yeah.
And so I talk about all forms of provision that women tend to look for in their men. Protection is physical protection, financial protection, social protection, all of the ways where women want to feel safe. Because at the end of the day, most men want their women in their feminine energy. A woman cannot be in her feminine energy if she does not feel safe. Safety is the prerequisite to getting a woman in her feminine energy. So I talk about the ways that men provide that sense of protection. So a woman automatically goes into her feminine energy, which is where the real multiplier magic happens between a man and his wife, is when his wife is in her feminine energy.
And give us a few of those.
Of the protection?
Yeah.
Okay. The basics, home security, she sees you locking the doors and like doing a lap around the house every night before bed just to make sure everything's locked up and safe. Um, Making sure her car tires have air and there's fuel in the car. Making sure she knows where the life insurance policies are, or who to call if anything were to happen to him. Making sure that she knows financially the financial health of the household and the business, so that she's not worried about the resources or what would happen if anything were to happen to you. Um, a lot of entrepreneurs tend to be in blended families, so making sure that she feels like a priority either with her in-laws or step kids or exes, that there's a sense of security with that. Some entrepreneurs are in socially risky companies, whether it's just because they're a local company and lots of people are employed with them, but there can be a social dynamic for business owners that their wives may or may not want protection from. Those tend to
That's
be the
good.
big ones.
Yeah. Great. So what's the last P?
The
So
last
it's
P is pursuit. And what does pursuit look like in a long-term relationship? And a lot of times we think it's the big extravagant, like every 5 or 10 years we do a big anniversary trip. And that could not be further from the truth. What we're really looking for in pursuit is the one percenters. This keeps marriages out of entropy, which entropy is a law of physics. It says any living system is designed to die. So if your marriage is getting really boring, really beige, really vanilla, and starting to feel like roommates, that's actually what marriage is designed to do, without the positive, consistent.
dying is what you're
Yeah,
saying. They're designed to
it,
die.
yes. The way to combat that entropy is with positive, consistent attention. And so the one percenters, and this is things like flirty text messages throughout the day, notes in the bathroom mirror, sending DoorDash when you're traveling, relearning her favorite songs, taking her picture with the kids, just little things that tell her that you have her attention still, that you still have your eye on her.
I thought that one, the last one that you threw in there, was really insightful. So many times, um, one of the parents becomes the keeper of the household, and they become invisible. They're the ones taking the pictures. They're the ones in the background and showing, like, the very act of, oh, look, there's my cute partner, I'm going to take his or her picture, and showing up on the film reels makes that person go, oh, wow, look, they're
Totally.
noticing me. They feel attracted. I think that's really, that's, I love the 1%, because that 1%, it's like the 80-20 rule.
Hmm.
That 1% is worth 40% of the marriage or whatever, just knowing that
Absolutely.
you're still desired and wanted. Yeah.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
You said in this last meeting, you repeated the phrase like 4 or 5 times, but not in a sexual way. And I'm like, why can't it be in a sexual way? What's your response to, like, you said, I think if I remember correctly, you said, um, let her catch you gazing at her from a distance, but not in a sexual way. And after the third or fourth time, I'm like, why can't it be in a sexual way? What's the answer to that?
Because we know that that's so high on your priority list, and when everything feels like it's sexual, it stacks the story in our mind like, I'm just here for sex. Like, I could be a placeholder. This has nothing to do with me. Like, this is I could be anyone. It makes it very anonymous because it just feels like it just needs to be about sex. Again,
Yeah.
this is another place where women having expanded attention of, oh, like, this is how he connects to me. Like, when I have a hard day and I want to talk about my emotions and just have him listen, this is the same for him in the sexual way. But when everything feels like it's stacked overtly sexual, it makes it feel really anonymous, like you're just a placeholder.
I like the phrase "stacks the story." I had not heard that before, but I know the story I'm telling myself, or the story someone else is telling themselves, but stacking up on that story. That's clever.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay,
Yep.
so now that's a good takeaway for a bunch of guys in a conference. Now you're in a room with a bunch of women. What does the agenda look like for them?
So the ones that I hit for women are play, praise, and purpose, especially for driven women. If it's, if it's a conference of business women and every woman in the room is a very driven business owner or CEO, any business leader, our businesses require us to be in our masculine energy. It's building, it's pursuit, it's out there, it's closing, it's rigid, it's structured. It's very demanding masculine energy to be a business owner. And when we bring that home, when a woman is in her masculine energy, she will automatically shut a man down. It's like you're standing on the traffic sensor that turns the green light, red light or green light. When we're in our masculine energy, we trick the sensor and he just shuts down because he's like, well, I'm not going to compete with her. She's in her masculine. If it was a dude, I'd punch him in the face and move on. I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to shut down. And so the complaint in female business owners a lot of times is that their husbands just feel dormant, like they're dead weight. And that's why the divorce rate, especially for female entrepreneurs, is so high because if we can't find that where the man is useful or adding to us, we're going to cut bait. And so,
You bastards.
yeah, again, like
I have
when
no
we
use for you. You have nothing for me.
it is, but it also plays into why men are wired to be useful. Like
Yeah.
that's not nothing. And so that's why when we can understand one another and how different we are, but how well we work together when we stay in the way that we're biologically wired to be, it works beautifully. But when one of us goes off the rails, that's where relationships can really get tricked out. So I talk about play being an expression of our feminine energy. It's at ease, it's relaxed, it's playful, and it helps the man find his masculine where he can rise up next to you and be
For an
like,
example, give me an example. Like if you're trying to be playful and you realize you've come home after a very difficult board meeting and you're carrying that weight home and you're just like, okay, I got to leave this in the car or whatever. I've had this conversation with myself. Like, I got to walk in, be completely present, and you're aware. I need to be playful. What does that look like?
it might be like I've had a really bad day. I need like a 10-minute decompress and then we're going to dance in the kitchen. Or I need to go get a really great workout, like blow off some steam appropriately, and then we're gonna go home or I'm gonna come home and we're gonna go on a bike ride together. Like
Okay,
something where there's
great.
playful energy together because play duplicates flow state and it creates all of the hormones and love drugs or love hormones where it bonds a couple together because you're having that novel experience together.
Wait, there are cuddle hormones? How did
There
I
are.
not know this?
It's
Well, that
oxytocin.
explains everything. Okay, what else? What else is on the agenda?
Okay, praise. And so what we appreciate appreciates, and in the absence of praise, everything can feel like criticism. So a question, a suggestion, um,
Yeah.
no feedback feels like criticism. And so in the absence of praise, everything feels like criticism. Praise is intimacy you see. And so when you can speak into the good things about your partner, it helps them feel seen. It helps, especially for a woman into a man. Remember, this is what I learned when I was so critical. Um, Speaking that into him, like, truly does, like, that's how one of the ways that women are life givers is speaking that life into her male partner.
Yeah. I remember being told by my late wife that, um, oh, you've got this. I'm sure you'll figure it out. And it was in a moment when I was really not feeling very secure about my ability to figure it out or have it. But just that, sunshine, that confidence, and I go, okay, good. And I think asking questions and being curious or concerned about it, which would be my, like, okay, wait, what's happening? What's going on? What are we doing here? How do we, like,
Mhm.
that would have just spiraled me down.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see that. Okay, what else is on the agenda?
Purpose. And purpose is really having a holistic view of our life outside of just the business. It's holding a vision for where we're going in the future. It's how we're going to get there. Is if you're a female, if you're the wife of an entrepreneur and your male partner is very purpose driven, it's very important for that quote unquote supportive spouse to have a pursuit of her own, because she will lose her identity if she's always just feels like she's waiting for the partner to like stop being focused on work so much. So having some kind of purpose or identity outside of work, whether you're a stay-at-home wife or the, the business owner wife, having something outside of work so that you can be in the expression, the expansion of all of your gifts outside of just being in a masculine business building role or just waiting for your partner to come home from work is really important.
Yeah, I've noticed that my wife and I have a lot of fun dreaming together about things that have nothing to do with work. Like someday, how are we going to make this happen? Let's do this. So we're being entrepreneurial, but we're doing it with our personal lives together. And
Mhm.
um, that feels really good,
Yeah.
because it's our thing, it's kind of like, I think it's analogous to buying a new home together where you're kind of dreaming and thinking and, well, we could put stuff here. And if you can all remember the first time you ever bought a house with your partner, it was really exciting thinking about all the things that would happen. But if it's a group activity, like this is it, this is our house, this is our
Yep.
vision. I think that's what you're talking about. There's something like that.
Yeah, it's inviting each other into a bigger shared future together. It's like no
Perfect.
matter what, like we're going to the same place together.
Is there talk about grace a little bit? Like you've been very vulnerable about how you like overcorrected.
Mhm.
Like you woo. And by the way, I have to say most people don't. From my experience, they just repeat patterns. Like I can't believe I married that crazy. And the next person they're dating, well, they're crazier. What's happening? You went the opposite way, so congratulations. But talk about how grace fits into all this, being graceful with the other person, being graceful with yourself.
I think if you can always presume benefit of the doubt, that would avoid so much, because to your
Yeah.
point, like, there's just so much what we don't know we're stepping on somebody's toes or wounds, and I wanna be really careful because, there's a point, especially for women who are too much in their feminine, where they are very self-sacrificial. Grace can actually become their superpower that starts to work against them, and so it's I think starts with having grace. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just say more about that because that feels like a really big idea and I want to understand it. So
Okay.
how does grace work against you?
So if you're always making excuses for the person and you're always like choosing grace and it becomes to the point of self-sacrifice, and now you've lost yourself,
Got it.
and it gets into a threshold of this is no longer like ignorance or a mistake. Now it's just abuse,
Yeah,
because
got it.
a person can become an enabler. So if somebody's very
Hmm.
supportive, the shadow side of that is you can be an enabler.
Yeah,
And so if we know we're on the side of this is not abuse, this is not enablement, like this is just some crunchy behavior we're working our way through, if we can always assume positive intent, because then we get out of stacking the story. So that's number 1. Number 2 is watching your marriage scorecard, and a marriage scorecard is where you all keep track of all of their penalties and all of your points. So you're tracking, I'm always the one that does the dishwasher, and I'm always the one that does this, and I'm
yeah,
always the one that does this, but and my partner never does this, never does it. So you're stacking your points versus their penalties. And so to
yeah.
be able to switch.
What makes me think of, and thank you. I've said more than once that the secret to a great marriage is caring about the other person's happiness more than your own. But I can see how that could really backfire.
Yeah,
Um, like if you are being too graceful or enabling or yeah, so thank you. That had not occurred to me.
yeah. And that's where that goes back to the cornerstone of why I work with my couples as individuals, is I want them to get really clear about how they're showing up as a happy, healthy individual, because any marriage or relationship will only ever be as happy and healthy as the least happy, healthy person in it. And so
Yeah.
if you're always making your partner happy to the extent where you feel like you're drowning, 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 the relationship is not going to improve as a result, because you're seeking further and further. So making sure that your own happiness is taken care of, as well as being able to meet a need that isn't yours, but not to the point where it's consistent self-sacrifice. There will always be some degree of self-sacrifice, but when it's consistent and you start to get betraying or abandoning yourself consistently, that's where things can get into trouble.
So in these CEO groups I put together, there are 6 different types of CEOs. And so in every group, there's an operator, there's a strategist, there's a rainmaker, there's a visionary, there's a tech futurist, a technologist, and then there's the orchestrator, which is kind of the peacemaker. Um, I'm going to repeat them for you, and then I'm going to ask you if there is one of them that stands out where it's like, oh yeah, that person, this is their blind spot, or this is
Okay.
something that I see consistently. So the operator, the operator, the strategist, the rainmaker, the visionary, the technologist, the tech futurist, or the orchestrator. So just off the top of your head, you work with CEOs all the time or entrepreneurs. Does one of those go, oh yeah, this person tends to be uh,
Yep.
anything?
Okay, so the first one that comes to mind is the visionary, and I'm gonna just admit, like, here's the punchline. Greatest strength is always your greatest weakness. Your
Yeah.
greatest strength tends to show up at work. It tends to show up as a shadow in your personal relationships, and so that's why most entrepreneurs are like, "I don't get it. At work, everybody loves me, and then I get home and I can't do anything right." And it's because that same quality is being used in a really productive way here, not so much at home. And so somebody who's a visionary who can always see the next best thing, always see what's possible, they get home and they're like, "Honey, you're great. You love your yoga. Let's open up a yoga studio for you." And they try and make an entrepreneur out of a not-apreneur.
This is hitting a little close to home. Let's go to a different seat.
Um, okay. Let me ask you, because I know
Yeah,
enough
yeah.
to be dangerous, but what's the superpower of an operator?
Operators are looking for efficiency.
Okay.
They want to look at the numbers and make the numbers tighter, better, stronger. They're about mitigating risk, not taking it.
Okay. So at home, there's probably a lot of unsolicited advice. If you would just do this and have this here and do this here, your life would be so much easier. And if that partner is with a mom who's like, yeah, that works on a spreadsheet, but not when the rubber meets the road and there's a toddler throwing bottles out the window and diaper changes and all of these other things. So there's probably a lot of unsolicited advice from an operator to a stay-at-home spouse.
Yeah. So perfect. I think the headline is your strength is your weakness always, and I think that the insight that oftentimes that what makes you a hero at work is exactly what's screwing you up at home is really something worth noticing.
Hmm.
Um, so okay, great. How about some rapid fire questions? Are you ready?
Sure.
All right. Um, this might be a lob pitch because we've talked about what's one habit every CEO should stop doing at home.
Blah, 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 blah. Keeping their phone in their hand at all times.
Awesome. One habit they should start immediately.
Mm, bringing their partner their favorite drink, whether that's coffee, tea, wine, water, but just a little small act of contribution or provision every single day.
My wife calls me the coffee fairy because I show up. I'll go work out and thank you, coffee fairy. Okay. Most underrated relationship skill.
Tie between curiosity of sense and sense of humor.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend Brian Burkhart yesterday, and he's a word guy, and he's like, I'm trying to figure out my favorite word. And he said, I think it's curiosity. And his wife, who is a therapist, said, how about gentle curiosity? And I
Mm,
liked it. Like
yep.
it's not one word, it's two, but I liked it a lot. Um, biggest myth about work-life balance.
There isn't one, especially post pandemic. It's a blend. Um, And it's not about time. It's about present. It's really about presence. I so many times people are like, "What? I'm home." And it's like, "Yeah, you're home, but you're scrolling waiting to be told what to do." Like that's not the same as being present and noticing like, "Oh, there's a need over here I can go meet without being asked."
I can prove that's true. Um, if you think of just take a second, everybody close your eyes and think about the hero. Which parent was your hero? Now think about that time when they said something to you that changed your life. That was a moment, and you remember it as clearly today as you did when it happened. I mean, that's what presence does.
Mhm.
Okay, a question every couple should ask once a week.
How can I make your life better this week?
Say I had all these inappropriate jokes happening in my head right there. Early warning signs a relationship is in trouble or drifting.
You are choosing safety and comfort over collision or discomfort.
So give me an example.
My partner's been doing this thing. It's really been annoying me. I know if I bring it up, they're going to get upset and shut down for 4 days. So I'm just not going to say anything. And you
Perfect.
keep doing that on repeat.
And that gets louder and louder because the things you focus on
You're stacking
grow.
your story.
There you go. Um, Best way to connect if you feel disconnected.
Mm. A walk out in nature with no phones,
I love it.
shoulder to shoulder, um, novel environment, fresh air, nature, low risk, high reward.
I'm going to do it tomorrow. Thank you for that gift.
You're welcome.
One word that defines a thriving relationship.
One word. I would say synchron synchronicity, shared worldviews, shared sense of humor. There's just a lot of ways where they're synced up on the same page.
Awesome. Okay, last question. Love or respect, what matters more?
Respect. Res-
Really?
yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Awesome. That was really fun. I
What?
feel smarter. I had once had a mentor tell me that he would Mark Twain said if I had more time, I would have written a shorter note, which is to say that when you've really thought about something deeply, you can put things very succinctly. So thank you. You obviously have. Um, I really appreciate you and the work you're doing.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I think
Same.
the listeners will as well. Thanks for
Great. Thank you
thanks for
so much.
coming.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.